Hello everyone. I'm sorry this is a more serious and less fun video to see, but after everything that has happened over the course of 2 years, it had pushed me to make a video about this. Firstly, I'd like to disclose that I do not intend harm or attacks on anyone involved in this situation. Everything in here has been screenshotted over time, gathered from outside sources, and has been left unedited for viewers' discretion on getting the whole context of what's going on. Please be warned that there will be mentions of verbal harassment, threats, suicide, and sensitive topics. If you are weary about any of this, please watch at your own sake and safety. Now let's get to the core of this, shall we? This essentially was my whole POV on this whole thing. From what is told is everything that happened from the beginning of the server to now. There might be gaps in the timeline, so please be aware that this might not be the full story, as I don't have the best memory. A few years back, while I was still modding for CJ and Anger, someone decided to make a Minecraft server. This only included some friends and mods. This included Galacii, Dark, Carino, Moon, Omori, Yeti, and Wit. Some unrelated stuff went down, made some of us uncomfy, so Galacii made a friend server Moon invited me into. This coincided with 2 servers, one for adults, where everything happened, and one for both parties, minors and adults alike. Some things happened, and well, we kind of all secluded into the adult server most often. After a while, I learned some information about the people I was quote-unquote working for, and well, I left. Didn't give any obvious reasons aside from my college work and getting in the way, and I was in college at the time. After a few months of this, we got more comfortable with sharing our OCs and lore together, even roleplayed a bit. Everything was going well. That was until Galacii, Dark, Carino, and Moon all came up with the idea for a group with their OCs. I was all down for the idea and was open to give them some ideas too. Of course, trying to be a part of the conversation. But instead of allowing others to join, they had instead secluded off to a hidden part of the server to yammer about it. When I discovered this, I felt terribly upsetted. Please note I had Vencord after they promoted it to me during this bonding time, just recently finding out about one of its features. I was unaware of how harmful and evasive the mod could be. So I reached out to them via the Vents channel, expressing my dismay on why they would exclude others like this. I personally expressed very heavily that this was not about the project, but on how they were treating us as people. Once I posted this, others came up at the time to express their own feelings too. This then grew onto them reaching back to me to discuss into a VC. They had simply apologized about the whole thing and didn't realize it was causing this much of a turmoil. And promised, I repeat, promised, that they'll do better and try to include others into it. So I held them to their word. Some days passed and I was seeing no to little improvement. So I reached out again, stressing this time that, hey, this is genuinely getting on my nerves, what's going on? They reached out to me again and did the same ass apology and did absolute dog shit. But as blind as I was, I gave them one more chance. Nothing. Over this course, I was starting to get nightmares about the situation. Even to the point I was questioning my medication so much I had to up the dosage. It then came to me. They weren't going to change. Although, after some time, I ran into them into a public VC. And went, hey, why not join them and see what's up? What could be ever going so wrong? So I did. Biggest regret of my life. Someone had asked them on where they have been during the conversation, and I chimed in making my own comment and asking the same thing too. I was curious. SC had explained calmly that they made a private server to work on the project. This was the total opposite of what I wanted them to do. that server was essentially my smack to the face telling me that they don't want specific people around. So naturally I got upset. This fell into an incidental argument as he tried to defend their reasoning for a bullshitty action that made the problem worse. Everyone got uncomfortable and calm and diffused the argument. We both apologized and moved on, but the damage was already done. Everyone left one by one because the air got soured. So did the VCs in the friend server. The VCs became less and less, and I started to feel guilty. Do note, I apologized deeply for that mess. I noted to not argue with them again over this. My mental health was really depleting over this, and I couldn't just take it anymore. So I made one last leaving post to send a message that, hey, I don't like what they're doing, and that I don't feel like this is being treated like a friend server anymore. And that I desperately did not feel like I belonged. I made it very clear that I was only taking a break on this mess. They were still open to reach out to me, and instead, once I left the server, I noticed Galacii unfriended me. Said nothing, just unfriended. I was rather pissed. Like, seriously, right after all I was doing, all my voices and feelings, after everything, she dropped me. Not only that, but she left my friend's server too after I had updated my closest friends on the situation I was going through in hopes that they'd help out and, like, getting my mind off of things. This wasn't the last of it. I decided to reach out, mainly going, what the fuck? Because after I just simply allowed them to reach out to me, they decided to cut me as a friend. And instead, she blocked me. It wrecked the hell out of me. To think someone you genuinely had a bond with, who shared brain rot together and had a great time with, would block you. This proceeded with others following along. One after another, they unfriended me. I couldn't fucking believe it. It felt like they were hitting me with guilt for something I didn't mean to do, all just because I was voicing on what they were doing was wrong. They did this on every platform I was on. Tumblr, VRChat, Roblox, the list goes on. But you'd think as a normal person they would just do it all at once when I'm not online to see, right? They didn't. It was always whenever I was online, when I could see it all. This just wrecked me to hell and back to the point I just wanted to end it. It felt like I was witnessing something worse than a repeat. So I reached out to those I thought I could trust with this information. To be met, well, with accusations of suicide baiting. It was nothing of that intent. To be accused of this was just hurtful to me as a person and made me feel worse. I couldn't. This era of talk lasted out over the course of months, to the point I almost committed. Thankfully, I had friends there to persuade me out of it, but God, I was so deadly close to drowning myself in that bathtub. So I decided instead to take a break from the internet a little and only interact with my closest friends. We played various things together and chatted to get my mind off of things. This did help a little while I was recovering. But while I was recovering, I decided to share the whole issue I was having with some friends while catching up with them. Well, they prompted me to make a video about it all. Of course, I was hesitant, thinking, but what if it makes things worse? And, well, they provided a good point. That this type of behavior was unacceptable, and clearly it got me hurt a lot. So I proceeded onto it. I gathered screenshots and everything I could, even older screenshots I took when talking to my closest friends about this. And then I realized that some of this would involve two others upon the situation. Unfortunately, that was the tricky part. I wanted to respect their opinions and feelings about the whole picture, but I also wanted to show as much evidence as possible, so I reached out to it. I explained my initial idea of compiling a video about Galacii and the others' actions and how it impacted not only me, but the others too. Respectfully, I was wanting to see if I had permission to share the screenshots we shared with me between her and Amori. I was well aware it had been well over past a year, but being that it had been severely dragged out longer than it should have, something must be done. This was where I was also informed about the post, accused of making it, when I had no idea it existed in the first place. Amori then went on to accuse me of stalking their profiles. That wasn't the case. I only checked it occasionally when I was, having the thought of checking Tumblr, which wasn't often. Besides, my paranoia was at a high. Of course, the way she worded it made it seem like I was doing that while I was their friends, which at the time I had no memory of. So I thought maybe it was a misconception. I only occasionally checked their profiles when I was their friend to see what they had posted and make conversation of it, to yap about the lore and fun. Maybe they thought I was stalking it instead. I wanted to clear that up. It didn't end well. Overall, unfortunately, I did not gain the permission to share them and was derived to a good point that I should not make a video about it. So instead, I made a private video to let off steam and made a public one about fruits so I didn't leave my small audience with nothing. That was when Galacii blocked me over Tumblr. Over a dumb-ass video about fruits. The post had nothing to do with her. I made the post very clear that it was just simply something just stupid I was making. Simply put, it was just an experimental and fun video that everyone consented on joining in on. For why at the start of the video, one of my friends had mentioned about drama, I was simply informing them that I had blown off steam earlier about some drama and I was dealing with it off camera. I just had simply accidentally started recording when I got his reaction. But I was too lazy to edit anything, so I left the whole thing unedited. But after that fun and jazz, I decided to maybe make the video public. It was a good idea, right? Albeit, I was still very uncertain at the time. One of my friends encouraged me to do this when I was catching up with them as well, since they knew about the people involved and I didn't want them to get hurt. Stupidly, out of my brash decision-making, I decided to tell them to inform Galacii that I would post it publicly if she didn't talk things through, since she clearly was still butthurt about this situation. Of course, I was filled with annoyance at the time, albeit due to her blocking me everywhere after the dumb post. So the message didn't send so well. That was when she sent Yeti to verbally attack me about it, unblocking me in the same time to seem like she never blocked me in the first place. Eddie then began sending false accusations left and right to me, not giving me the time to respond properly. This went on until it evolved into a screaming match. Within this, he threatened for my therapist, to whom I really needed, to get fired, and called me a whore. That was where I simply had enough. I was sick and tired of all this mess, and it had strained along like a wounded animal for over a year, to the point I snapped. I was no longer going to humor him or clarify any sort of reasoning at this point. I was done, so I sent him one last message and blocked him. I proceeded to tell Galacii that if she wants to send someone, to not send someone whose emotions would get the best of them, and blocked her too. It was out of my own comfort. that was when Maury reached out to me. Of course, I was a lot less pissed at her than I was at the others. Surely she'd be reasonable, right? Wrong. She reached out to me saying that she was cutting me off because apparently I dragged her back into this when, even though I mentioned nothing about her and nor included her in any of this. It was clear there was no sign of agreement or understanding or any sort of compromise between us, so I just let her rip the Band-Aid. I was done, sick and tired of all of it. And after some time of cooling down, I reviewed the video I made and to check if it was post-worthy. It didn't give the right energy and direction I was going for. So I decided that I was going to re-record it for a better mindset. That was until I gave one last shot and reached out to Dark, as they'd be reason about this, right? They did not want to talk. Even after I deleted my post when I was mentally unstable for their sake, they did not want to talk it over. So instead, we left it off in a bittersweet ending. I decided to not remake the video. Time passed and I made new friends within the ArtFed server and tried to move on. That was until I saw and noticed that some people who were not a part of the whole thing began with starting to block me. Galacii spread something to them, didn't they? It was supposed to be over. She should have dropped it by now, right? Wrong. If you weren't aware of her post, she made a doc about me, and screwed with lies, twisted words, and personal leaks of my own private vent art. Galacii, if you're watching this, I read through all that shit. I'm disappointed in not only you, but the others that gave you that personal information on me and spread that shit to others. But that's enough of that. Let's get back on track. At the time, I didn't know about the doc. I just saw the people dropping me. I knew it had something with Galacii, but I just let them. I was tired. So I decided after some time on getting to know my new friends to tell them about the situation I was in. I showed them everything, and they agreed. What Galacii did was wrong, and not only that, but harmful. They didn't just suggest me a video, though. One of my friends I reconnected with did. They encouraged me to make a response to the post some add-on did on my stance. So I did. And that's when, Maury decided it would be okay to not only personally attack me, but my friend. Maury, the person who wanted to cut contact me with, is now contacting me, but instead with intent to hurt? That can't be right. She literally made this situation worse by bringing my ex into this and calling me a pedophile with no proof. She was saying it was pedophilic to be friends with minors who were literally just around my age group, when they were doing the same shit. For context, my ex and I are 1 year apart. We both consented into a relationship. We had no sexual interaction and agreed that it would be only simply down to cuddles, kisses, and any other platonic or romantic interaction, due to me being ace and sexually repulsed. For the friends bit, I remember when I said there was a server for minors and adults, yeah, they were in that server. Along with this, my friend had made a short-form video about this to disclose how bullshitty the response was, and the whole situation. Mainly, the whole thing that regarded their involvement into this mess. But anyways, this just made things worse, and I was pushed to my limit. So, I made a temporary long-form post about it all with guiding evidence. They didn't like that. And this is where we are now. Galacii made a post about me a few days ago, and ever since then I had lost friends over it. Not only that, but caused me to be scared of going into public spaces of my special interest and in fear someone with the wrong story or not even the whole story would out me from that server. But I had friends who stayed to back me up. People who were also just as hurt by Galaxy's actions also reached out to me and wanted to help and aid me in this video. So I'm letting their voices be heard now, loud and clear. To you, dear listener and viewer, please be warned. Galacii is not a good person as she turns out to be. She has attacked, manipulated, cyberbullied, harassed, and doxed people just to get her into a good light. And for those hurt by her actions, please, in your own time, speak out now. The world is listening.
Oh my fucking god. It got worse. Oh my fucking god.
Okay. I'm just updating this as of August 11th. This has grown... Oh my god. How do I start it? This has grown, honestly, to a more serious thing than it should have. In which, thank you, Bazzy, for including your part of the thing. That is much appreciated. But, as of now, I have 2 things against me. I've already stated previously on this video. But, I'll just show the screenshots of what Karina said, but oh my god. I'm so sick and tired of this bullshit. Okay. So, I might as well include that I have actually talked to them, like, quite a bit when we were friends. And refreshing on this now, yes, I could have taken over the conversation and stuff like that, but I gave open time for others to talk and share their opinions and stuff like that. It wasn't one-sided. And parasocial? Bro, we were fucking friends! To call it parasocial is essentially saying that we were never friends to begin with. Never friends to begin with. We were fucking friends. To call this out as, like, so stupid is an overstatement, because it really is. But honestly enough, I'm taking a break from Tumblr after all this. I'm done. I am so done. Woo! Fuck drama! I hate it! Oh my fucking god!